you are just joining us, this is a presentation of the API's Eye on Government program. Filmmaking continues to be a segment which continues to show tremendous potential for growth. Recently, Vincentian filmmaker Akley Olton took part in a Garifuna filmmaking workshop in Honduras. This workshop created an opportunity for the participants to learn how they can use filmmaking to promote the Garifuna culture. Olton took the opportunity to sit down with the API to share his experiences and the significance of this important workshop. Here's more.
Right next to me is someone that really should need no introduction. It's Mr. Akley Olton, a well-known local and hard-working filmmaker. Akley, I understand you've been to Honduras and you had a very interesting workshop there. Could you tell us about the work you would have done in Honduras?
Sure. And thank you again for the opportunity to share on what we're trying to accomplish or trying to do in St. Vincent in the creative industries. So yeah, it was a job really, but one of these jobs that is just like very divine and very spiritual, where I was invited to teach a workshop in filmmaking in a Garifuna community in Honduras. And you could understand why it's like a spiritual thing, because it's really the whole point of it is to equip people from the community to tell their own stories, which is our story as well. There aren't lots of people in the Garifuna community who have access to institutions or schools to teach you these technical skills. And the same could be said for lots of indigenous communities throughout the world, throughout Latin America. And the whole point is to make what they call inclusivity more real for people in indigenous communities, in terms of if they don't know what cinema means or what it means to make a film or what it means to want to preserve your culture, we're giving you the tools and the know-how to do that exact thing. And I feel it could be very important in helping to keep the Garifuna culture alive. When you go on YouTube, a lot of what you see is about this music called punta, which is a kind of it's kind of like soca in a way, or raga soca, but it's the commercialized version of the culture. So you'll see lots of people just focusing on that, and it's really like people dancing like how you dance at carnival. And the richness, the deep richness of the Garifuna culture is sometimes not given the same sort of spotlight. So the whole idea is, if people on the inside who understand the value of it know how to use the technology to create stories that represent the authenticity of this culture, I feel like it could definitely help towards preserving it. So the workshop was funded by the Institute of Cinematography in Honduras, which is like a government department set up 2 years ago. I'm just elaborating because it's my dream, right? And what it is, it's like a government department that looks for opportunities in filmmaking for the nation of Honduras. And they also create opportunities in terms of training, or even creating legislation to earn the state or the government monies through film productions that might want to film in Honduras, or other different opportunities that could arise. And yeah, it's part of my dream for St. Vincent to be able to have an organization like that is a part of the government, but also kind of like Tourism Authority, kind of like that kind of just looking for opportunities to develop cinema that could actually take up where Pirates of the Caribbean left off, in terms of how do we create more opportunities like that could get young Vincentians or even old Vincentians that have these skills and these interests, how we could get them to put it to use here on the ground and earn some money from it and make a living, make a career, and maybe even export the skills like I'm trying to do, So that was the goal with that workshop. I'm not sure he's going to hear this, but the organization that invited me to be a part of it was called Opida, which is a production company based in Honduras. So they collaborated with the Institute of Cinematography and created this workshop. There is talk about another one later down in the year, so I'm hoping it comes true, because it's definitely a blessing to be able to do that kind of work. It's not every day you get to use your camera, your skills to like keep the knowledge of the ancestors that were exiled from St. Vincent alive. So yeah, I'm extremely grateful. Well, I don't know if you have any other questions.
Yes, of course. Considering the success of this workshop, the first thing is, do you see a dynamic change in the next 10 to 15 years where the ideas that we may have, what we may think is, you know, the culture, may shift to something more deeper, as you say, deeper and richer? And it's not just about the dance, but about also everything related to the Garifuna culture, the food, the practices, the arts, the art forms. You see in the next 10, 15 years with workshops like this, there will be a change, not just for Honduras, but for other countries like St. Vincent and Grenadines. Well,
that's the goal, you know, that's the goal. Before this workshop in Honduras, and maybe, you know, I collaborated with the Ministry of Culture in 2021 to create a workshop that focused on documenting some of the indigenous craft techniques here in St. Vincent, you know, the bread basket and the copio and tap, you know. So we went around the island and made interviews with the indigenous people of St. Vincent, the Kalinagos, mostly Kalinago, who remember these basket making techniques. And you know, we captured the plans that are used to create them, and the literal technique on how to do it, and stories of the past, of how it was used, and also see how different artisans in St. Vincent are using some of the same indigenous craft techniques to sort of create what is our handicraft industry. You know, little things that the tourists sometimes buy, you see them on the street, just to kind of like let other Vincentians know that those things are deep representations of our authentic culture, as opposed to, you know, some of these other things that we import from China. And yeah, so that's one workshop that's happened in St. Vincent. There was another one which was a collaboration with UE Seismic, and it was done in the community of Fancy and Sandy Bay. And the whole point was to sort of like capture the experience of those who survived the recent eruption. And again, it was documentary filmmaking, so you go into the community, you teach them how to use the camera, how to edit, how to tell a story, and how to put a project together. So it's a project that's building up, and the vision is exactly as you say, where you want 10, 15 years from now that you find that there is a greater sense of knowing within St. Vincent or within Honduras, within Belize, within Nicaragua, of the importance of this culture. And you're getting peaks or insights from people who actually belong in the communities, and not from journalists from France or St. Vincent, you know, in the case of me going to Honduras. Because even though I could claim Garifuna identity as mine, I could never claim being a Honduran Garifuna or Belizean, because I don't know what that means. And then being Garifuna in these other places is different from being Garifuna in St. Vincent, because how I illustrate it is like there's two sides of one coin. And what we know, some of what we know they don't know, and some of what they don't know we don't know. And some of what they know we don't know, right? So it's really how to bring this whole value together so that, you know, we could have it shared amongst us and those in the diaspora. Yeah, but so yeah, that was it. Actually, the film that I made as part of this workshop, Crafting our indigenous culture, is now being displayed in Washington, D.C., in the St. Vincent's Embassy in Washington, D.C., because this is actually Indigenous Week. So from the 9th to the 11th is when they celebrate indigenous identities in the OAS, which is Organization for American States. And this particular film and the work that I've been doing is being highlighted right now as an example of how we could you know, use the art and the tech to preserve the culture for the future and to share it with a bigger audience, because sometimes you might feel like, oh, I'm marginalized and people don't know about me, you know, or people don't respond to me. But it's really because they don't know. And you can't blame them if they don't know. In this age of information, you have to put it out there so that people could know, you know? So I feel like that's one of the benefits of this whole thing right now, that you could have a further reach, and within that reach you could find resources and ways to preserve and protect these indigenous cultures.
Thanks for staying with us for this evening's program. Continue to follow at API SVG on Facebook, YouTube, and our channel 116 for daily, accurate, and informed updates. On behalf of the technical and production teams, I am Yinka Chambers. Good evening.